I remember the exact moment the whole nightmare began. Not because anything loud happened, not because the world cracked open dramatically, but because of how ordinary everything felt right before it fell apart. It was one of those quiet evenings that felt like a warm exhale after a long day. The world outside was settling into dusk, that soft in-between hour when the sky turns the color of lavender and gold and everything feels gentle. I had lit a candle on the coffee table, something with a calming vanilla scent that always reminded me of simpler days. A small ritual I used to steady myself whenever life felt too loud. I curled up on the couch with a blanket wrapped around my legs, ready to unwind after hours of work. I wasn't thinking about anything heavy, just breathing in the peace of the moment, enjoying the stillness that comes before night fully arrives. And then it happened. A single buzz. My phone lit up beside me with a soft vibration. Nothing dramatic, nothing alarming, just an everyday notification. But sometimes, the smallest sound hides the biggest storm behind it. Sometimes catastrophe knocks quietly. I reached over absent-mindedly, expecting a harmless message, a meme from a friend, a reminder, a random notification. But when I saw who it was from, the warmth in the room seemed to shift. It was Daniel, my partner, my safe place, the person who had walked into my life like a steady, healing breeze after years of chaos. I tapped the screen, expecting something lighthearted. He wasn't the dramatic type. If anything, he was soft, patient, deliberate with his words. Instead, I saw 5 words. 5 tiny, sharp words that stabbed straight through the calm. We need to talk. Now. My breath caught. Daniel never messaged like that. We weren't the kind of couple that threw ultimatums at each other. Even when tension simmered, even when we misunderstood one another, our conversations were soft, thoughtful, kind. So for him to send something so abrupt, so cold, so urgent, it felt like the floor beneath me shifted an inch. I sat up straight, blanket falling from my legs. My pulse quickened. A knot formed in my stomach, twisting slowly, painfully. I dialed his number immediately, my instincts reaching for him, for clarity, for anything that would explain the growing sense of dread crawling up my spine. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. No answer. Daniel? I whispered into the silence, as if somehow he could hear me. When the call went to voicemail, I lowered the phone and stared at the screen, trying to slow my breathing. A dozen thoughts raced through my head. Was he hurt? Was something wrong? Did something happen? But before I could spiral further, another notification popped up. This time it wasn't a message. It wasn't words. It was a video file. Just a simple, cold thumbnail with a timestamp. No context, no caption, no explanation. I stared at it, my heart thudding painfully in my chest. Something in me whispered, "Don't open it. Not yet. Not alone." But curiosity, That human flaw, that desperate hunger for answers, pushed my thumb forward. With a shaky breath, I pressed play. And within seconds, my entire world tilted. Because there I was, or someone who looked exactly like me. Same face, same hair I had tied into a loose bun earlier that day. Same voice, the cadence, the tone, the familiar little inflections only someone who knew me intimately would recognize. And then there was the background, a bedroom that looked eerily like mine. The same bed frame, the same off-white sheets, the same mismatched curtains I kept promising myself I'd replace, but never did. It felt like staring at a reflection I didn't remember taking. But the worst part, the part that made my skin crawl, the woman in the video, the me, was doing things, saying things, intimate things, private things, ugly things. Words dripping with betrayal, cruelty, and manipulation, actions that made my stomach twist. Things I would never say, things I would never do, not to Daniel, not to anyone. It felt like watching a ghost wearing my skin. A stranger molded from my identity, moving like me, speaking like me, poisoning the air with things that weren't mine. My hand flew to my mouth. My heart hammered violently. For a brief, terrifying moment, my brain couldn't process what my eyes were telling it. I whispered, barely audible, "That's not me. That can't be me." But the more I watched, the more disturbing it became. Because the woman on the screen didn't just look like me. She mimicked the tiny quirks I didn't even realize other people noticed. The quick inhale I make before admitting something difficult. The way I tugged the chain of my necklace when I felt anxious, something Daniel had teased me about many times. The subtle shift in my shoulders when I'm uncomfortable, all of those replicated perfectly. For one horrifying second, I questioned my own memory, questioned my sanity. Was this real? Had someone recorded me without my knowledge? Was this from an old angle? A misinterpreted moment? A hidden camera? Deep down, under the panic, truth whispered back, "No." Because I knew myself. I knew my voice. I knew my boundaries. I knew my heart. Nothing about that video was me. Just when my confusion reached its breaking point, my phone rang again. Daniel. This time I answered instantly. His voice was shallow, strained, like he'd been holding his breath for too long. "Tell me the truth," he said quietly, painfully, desperately. "Did you make this?" That question hit me harder than the video itself, because behind it, I heard fear. I heard hurt. And worst of all, I heard doubt. "Daniel," I said gently, fighting tears, "listen to me. That is not me. I swear to you." But he cut across me sharply. "I need to know. Right now." The words sliced through me. Because in that moment, that terrible, breathless moment, It felt like my entire future with him was balancing on the edge of a single answer he wasn't sure he could believe. My mind raced. My heart pounded. My throat felt tight, dry, terrified. And suddenly I knew exactly who had done this. Not because of the voice, not because of the face, not because of the room, but because of the intention, the timing, the venom. The way the video was engineered to target the only part of my life currently thriving. This wasn't random. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't a stranger. This was personal. I felt it in my bones, the bitterness, the anger, the obsessive need to punish me long after I had walked away. The memory flashed in my mind, my ex-fiancé standing in my apartment doorway on the night I ended things, eyes wild, jaw tight, saying those chilling words, "You're going to regret leaving me." I had pushed that warning away, tried to let it fade into the past. But now it had returned, not as a man pounding on my door, but as a flawless digital imitation of me, crafted to destroy my new happiness. A deepfake. A digital doppelganger made from stolen photos, stolen audios, stolen moments, pieced together with technology powerful enough to rewrite my reality. And now Daniel was caught in its line of fire. My voice trembled as I said, "Daniel, someone created this to hurt us. It's not real." But even as I said it, I knew that proving the truth would be a battle, a long, twisted journey into the darkest edges of technology and insecurity. And it all began with that one quiet evening, that single buzz, that 5-word message, the moment the storm first knocked on my door. Daniel's silence on the other end of the line felt heavier than the video itself. Breathing shaky, voice uneven. He wasn't angry. He was hurt, confused, trying to make sense of the impossible. "Daniel," I said softly, "that is not me." There was a pause, a long one. I could practically hear him weighing every memory we'd shared in our short, beautiful months together. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked. "It looks exactly like you. The voice, the room, everything." "I know," I whispered. "And that's what scares me." He sent a small, disbelieving exhale, the kind people make when their heart wants to trust you, but their mind is drowning in doubt. "Please," I said, "come over. Let's figure this out together." There was another long pause. Then he agreed. The moment I hung up, the realization sank in like a stone to the bottom of a lake. There was only one person in my entire life with the motivation, the bitterness, and the technical background to pull something like this off. My ex-fiancé, Adrian. He'd always been brilliant with technology, machine learning, coding, AI tools. He treated them like toys. Dangerous toys. When we were together, I admired his mind. After we broke up, I learned how easily a brilliant mind can become a ruthless one. He didn't take the breakup well. Actually, he didn't take it at all. There were accusations, long rants, drunken midnight messages, and promises. No, threats, disguised as heartbreak. The last words he ever said to me were, "You think you're walking away clean? You'll see what damage really is." Back then, I thought it was just anger, just dramatic talk from a wounded ego. But now I was staring at a digital monster shaped in my image, a monster he created, with a version of me he crafted with meticulous cruelty. While waiting for Daniel to arrive, I replayed the video again, slowly this time, frame by frame. I studied every detail with the kind of cold detachment that comes when panic burns itself out. The lighting was wrong. My eyes blinked in a slightly mechanical rhythm. The shadows on my cheek didn't quite match my bedroom window. And the voice, while nearly flawless, had that faint, eerie AI smoothness. Just a little too perfect. Just a little too clean. But the average person wouldn't see any of that. And Daniel? He was not the average person. He was someone who loved me, which meant he was someone this video was designed to break. I swallowed hard and whispered to myself, he wants to destroy me, piece by piece. The doorbell rang. Daniel stood there, eyes red-rimmed, expression torn between hope and fear. He didn't step inside right away. He just held up his phone and said quietly, "Show me it's not the truth." My entire life in that moment felt like it was hinging on my next breath. And deep inside, I knew this wasn't going to be just about proving innocence. This was going to be a war of proof between a lie built by algorithms and the truth built by two human hearts. Daniel stepped inside slowly, as if crossing the threshold meant choosing which version of me he believed in. He didn't speak, didn't even blink at first. His eyes scanned me with this fragile, searching intensity, like he was trying to read the truth in the tiniest shifts of my expression. And that's when it hit me, sharp and painful. He wanted to trust me. He just didn't know if he still could. I gestured toward the couch, but he stayed standing, arms crossed, jaw tense. The space between us felt like a battlefield neither of us had prepared for. Can we watch it together?" he asked, voice tight. I nodded, even though dread pooled heavy in my stomach. We sat down, leaving a small, uncertain gap between us. And then we pressed play. The air changed instantly. It wasn't just the video. It was the weight of what it represented. A lie wearing my skin. A digital ghost shaped to destroy everything I had rebuilt. We watched it like detectives examining a crime scene, not like a couple watching a video. Seconds passed. Long, icy seconds. Then Daniel murmured, "Pause. Right there." The frame froze mid-blink, and my throat tightened. My eyelids in the video fluttered with an unnatural rhythm, nearly symmetrical, almost mechanical. "That doesn't look natural," he whispered. I nodded. Deepfake models struggle with microblinks. They get too perfect. He exhaled slowly, a small dent in the wall of doubt. He leaned closer. "Okay, what else?" I rewound, pointing toward the wall behind my digital self. "Look at the shadow. My window's on the left, but the light here falls from the right." His brows pulled together. "Yeah, and your room doesn't even look like that." We studied it deeper. The smoothness of the skin texture, the micro delays between sound and lip movement, the artificial consistency of the lighting. Every detail we uncovered felt like peeling away pieces of a lie that had been wrapped around us. But then, the moment everything shifted. Daniel squinted. "Wait, that lamp in the background, you don't own that." I froze. He was right. Not only was that lamp not mine, that room wasn't mine. Not now, not even before. Someone had digitally stitched pieces of my face, my voice, my mannerisms onto a completely fabricated environment. A chill ran down my spine. "Daniel, this wasn't made by a stranger. This is someone who knows my old space. The angles I use when recording, the things I say, how I sound when I'm tired." Someone who had a library of old videos of me, old recordings, old voice notes. Daniel's expression shifted: hope, rage, understanding, all colliding at once. "Adrian," he said quietly. The name landed like a cold verdict. We'd suspected it, but this was evidence with edges sharp enough to cut through any doubt. Still, suspicion wasn't proof, and proof was the only thing that would protect us. I opened my laptop, hands trembling with a mix of fear and determination. Timestamps, origin signatures.
I swallowed. If he made this, he left fingerprints. Digital ones. Daniel finally moved closer, his shoulder brushing mine, a sign that the gap between us was starting to close. We loaded the tools. We dragged in the files. We began scanning every pixel for the truth. Events of the night had shifted. No longer me defending myself. No longer him doubting me. We were partners now. Two people fighting a shared enemy, a digital doppelganger built from stolen pieces of me. As the tools began processing, the quiet hum of my laptop filled the room. A hum that felt like a countdown. A hum that whispered, "When these results come in, everything changes."
The digital forensics tools took a few minutes to run, but it felt like hours. Daniel and I sat shoulder to shoulder in a room thick with tension, both of us listening to the low hum of my laptop like it was a heartbeat. Then, a small chime broke the silence. Metadata report ready. I clicked the file. A long list of coded information filled the screen. Timestamps, resolution changes, rendering logs, format signatures. Most people wouldn't know what any of it meant, but I did. The first thing that stood out was the rendering timestamp, 2:14 a.m. 3 nights ago. Daniel exhaled sharply. That's exactly when he said he couldn't sleep. I nodded slowly. Adrian had messaged me at 2:19 a.m. that night. A weird, too casual, "Are you awake?" I ignored it then, but now it felt like a breadcrumb. But the second thing I saw, that was the real breakthrough. Hidden deep in the log file was a model signature tag, a tiny encoded line identifying which system had rendered the deepfake. I zoomed in. Daniel leaned closer. A sickening chill crawled over my skin because the tag wasn't random. It wasn't generic. It wasn't from some anonymous online generator. It was from a user-trained model, a personalized one, and attached to it was a fragment of the user directory path, a simple, almost invisible text string, but I recognized it instantly. Users, Adrian M., documents, AI projects. My breath caught. Daniel? This is his computer. My voice cracked with the weight of it. This was created on his machine, his folder, his profile. Daniel rubbed his forehead, stunned. He wasn't just messing around. He built this. He planned it. I scrolled further. Then we found the final crack in Adrian's scheme, the detail he never expected anyone to notice. Buried in the metadata was the source training folder name, Mia Archive 2021 to 2022. Daniel turned to me with slow horror. That's your old photos, the ones you sent him, the videos, the voice notes. I felt my stomach twist, my skin prickled, my whole chest tightened. I said quietly,
He saved them, all of them. He stored them, and he used them to build this. There was no more doubt, no more questioning, no more wondering if we were being paranoid. Adrian had created the deepfake. He had trained it using our old memories. He had weaponized my past to attack my future. Daniel sat back, running a hand over his face. We have the metadata, the signature path, the timestamps. This is enough to prove everything. I nodded, but something inside me whispered, not enough to stop him. Because if Adrian had done it once, he could do it again. Better, smarter, harder to trace. We needed something more than evidence. We needed a way to make sure he could never use my identity against me again. I closed the laptop gently, my hand steadier than I felt. We confront him, I said. Daniel's head snapped toward me. What? You want to go to him? I met his eyes, calm, determined, done being hunted by a digital ghost. No, not go to him. We make him come to us. Daniel swallowed. And when he does, I look down at the laptop, at the proof, the violation, the digital fingerprints of a man who once swore he loved me. When he does, I said softly, we show him that his illusion isn't stronger than our truth.
I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared, but because something inside me had shifted. For weeks, Adrian had been haunting my life from the shadows, using pieces of my past like weapons. But now, I had his fingerprints, his patterns, his intentions, and I was done being hunted. Daniel suggested we meet Adrian in a public place. Bright lights, witnesses, cameras. Somewhere he couldn't turn a confrontation into chaos. So we chose the one place Adrian never ignored. The coffee shop where he and I had our first date. If anything would trigger his ego, it was nostalgia. I sent one simple text. We need to talk. Same place. He replied in seconds. Finally. That was all he wrote, but I could almost hear the arrogance in it, the confidence that he still had some kind of power over me. Daniel and I arrived early. We sat by the window, the metadata report open on my phone, still glowing like a weapon waiting to be drawn. When Adrian walked in, he looked exactly the same. Calm, smug, collected. A man who believed he had orchestrated a flawless performance. He smiled. Hey, Mia. You look tired. He always tried to poke where it hurt. I didn't rise to it. Instead, I slid my phone across the table. The screen showed a still frame of the deepfake video, my stolen face frozen mid-sentence. His smile twitched, just a hair, but I caught it. Daniel leaned back, letting me lead. The first crack. I tapped the screen. Adrian, we know, I said softly. The model signature, your directory path, the training folder with my name on it, everything. He laughed, too fast, too loud, like a man trying to cover a crack in his mask. That's ridiculous. Anyone could have made this. I tilted my head. Anyone with a folder labeled Mia Archive 2021 to 2022? Silence. His jaw tightened. Just once. That was when I realized. Adrian wasn't here to deny it.
He was here to see how much we knew. Daniel leaned forward, his voice calm but sharp. You tried to destroy our relationship. You used her photos, her old videos, her voice notes, and you weren't smart enough to cover your digital fingerprint. Adrian shifted in his chair, his smugness fading. You're making assumptions, he muttered. No, I said. We're showing you proof. I opened the metadata log and turned the phone toward him. His eyes darted across the screen, reading line after line, timestamps, file paths, rendering signatures, his own user directory. Adrian's hands curled slowly into fists. You went through all this trouble, he muttered, voice low. Just to blame me? No, I whispered. To stop you. Adrian leaned forward, eyes burning, voice tight and trembling with anger. You think you can erase what people already saw? You think one stupid report changes anything? She believed it, didn't she? He questioned you, didn't he? That was the whole point. Daniel froze. I felt my breath catch because in his fury, in his need to be right, Adrian had said the one thing that gave him away. He admitted he knew Daniel had seen it, but Daniel had never told him, and neither had I. I leaned back, my voice steady. You just confessed. Adrian blinked, too late. His face drained of color. I stood up slowly, pushing my chair back. This isn't about jealousy anymore. This is obsession. And now we have everything we need. Your slip, your metadata, your logs, your signature. Daniel rose beside me, towering over the table. Adrian opened his mouth to argue, but nothing came out. He just sat there, breathing hard, eyes darting like a trapped animal, severing the strings. I picked up my bag. Stay away from us. Stay away from my photos, my voice, my life, because the next time you cross a line, I leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. You'll lose access to me. You'll lose your freedom. Daniel placed a firm hand on the table, not threatening, but final. Adrian looked between us, his facade shattered. We walked out, leaving him sitting in the ruins of his own lies. And for the first time since the nightmare began, I felt free. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. Because exposing someone publicly breaks their illusion. And wounded egos don't fade quietly. When Daniel and I stepped out of that cafe, the cold evening air felt different, sharper, cleaner, like the world had shifted just a few degrees back into place. But peace doesn't come all at once. Sometimes it arrives in tiny pieces, scattered like breadcrumbs, and you have to pick them up slowly, one by one. Rumors don't die quietly. Within 24 hours, the deepfake video had stopped circulating, but the whispers didn't. There were still screenshots floating around, still people debating in private chats, still someone somewhere saying, I don't know, it looked real. And that's the thing about digital lies. They don't just fade. They linger like smoking clothes you can't wash clean. One of Daniel's friends even messaged him, Bro, you sure she didn't actually do it? That video was crazy. Daniel showed me the message, his jaw clenching. Before the deepfake, we had been blissfully happy. Two people building something gentle, steady, and new. Now we were learning what it felt like to have our trust attacked by technology and an unstable ex with a grudge. Daniel needed proof, not because he didn't trust me, but because he needed something to fight the whispers with. He sat with me at the dining room table that night, our laptops open, the metadata report between us like a truth we were learning to hold together. He said softly, "I believe you. I always did. But I need other people to believe the truth too. For us, for our future." That's when I realized Daniel wasn't rebuilding his trust. He was protecting ours. So we created a digital folder. Every file, every screenshot, every piece of evidence carefully organized. Not for revenge, not for a lawsuit, just for our sanity. Sometimes protecting your peace means documenting your pain. The unexpected call. 2 days later, around 10 p.m., my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize flashed across the screen. I almost ignored it, but something, intuition or maybe exhaustion, made me answer. A woman's voice came through, trembling. "Is this Mia?" I said carefully. "Yes." She exhaled shakily. I think we need to talk. I'm Adrian's neighbor. I heard what happened." My stomach tightened. She continued, rushing her words. "He's been spiraling. He hasn't left his apartment in days. I heard him arguing with someone about the video you exposed. He said, you ruined him." I closed my eyes. Adrian wasn't the victim. He wasn't the wounded one. He was the architect of this entire disaster. But people like him, people who rely on manipulation, they crumble when their lies lose oxygen. Daniel listened quietly beside me, his hand finding mine. The digital echo of a wounded ego. The next day, Adrian posted a long, rambling message online, not naming me, not directly accusing me, but implying, hinting, framing himself as misunderstood, heartbroken, digitally framed by jealous people. It didn't gain much traction. A handful of sympathy comments, a few confused reactions, nothing more. But reading it didn't make me angry. It made me sad. Sad that a once loving relationship had rotted into something this unrecognizable. Sad that a grown man chose deceit over healing. Sad that he had used every tool of modern technology not to build a better life, but to destroy mine. Daniel's turning point. One evening, after we cooked dinner together in warm silence, Daniel looked up at me while drying the dishes. "You know," he said, "this could have broken us, but it didn't." I asked him why. He shrugged, giving a small smile. "Because I saw you, the real you. No AI model, no manipulated clip, no angry ex could ever erase that." And I swear, in that moment, everything in me softened. Trust, once tested by fire, shines differently, brighter, truer. But peace has a final step. Even though the confrontation was behind us, even though the deepfake was exposed, even though the truth stood strong, there was still one last thing we needed to do. Close the door completely, digitally and emotionally. Adrian still had old photos, old videos, old voice notes, pieces of me, pieces he had already twisted once. And if I stayed silent, who's to say he wouldn't do it again? Daniel squeezed my hand gently. "It's time to protect yourself," he whispered, officially.
When everything finally settled, the tears, the fear, the late night decoding sessions, there was one last step I knew I couldn't avoid. A step that wasn't about revenge or proving anything or even healing what had been damaged. It was simply about closing a door that had stayed open far too long. I remember sitting on my living room floor with a cup of cold tea, the kind you forget to drink because your mind is somewhere else entirely. My phone buzzed quietly in my hand. A message from Aiden. "Whatever you decide, I'm here." For the first time in weeks, those words didn't trigger panic. They felt steady, safe. But this wasn't his battle anymore. This final part belonged to me. I had technically blocked my ex weeks ago. Everywhere. Instagram, email, phone, every platform you could imagine. But blocking is like locking your front door while leaving all the windows open. He had still slipped in through the digital cracks, weaponized technology, and tried to puppeteer my life from the shadows. So this time, I didn't just block. I built walls. I changed every password, every one. I enabled tighter two-factor authentication. I deleted old cloud accounts I hadn't touched in years. I reported the deepfake to every platform with timestamps, proof, and context. And then I did the hardest part. I backed up every memory from the relationship. Photos, messages, videos, and moved them into a hidden folder. Healing doesn't happen in a straight line. Not to revisit, not to keep, but to acknowledge that chapter existed and that it was finally over. No yelling, no drama, no attempt to fix anything. I sent one message. One single message through the only channel he hadn't been blocked on. I know what you did. I've documented everything. Do not contact me again in any form. This is the last time your actions will ever touch my life. He didn't respond. Not a word. And somehow that silence felt louder than anything he could have typed. It took days before my chest stopped tightening every time my phone lit up. Weeks before I stopped replaying that fake video in my mind. Months before the reality sunk in. I survived something most people don't even know how to imagine. A fake version of me had come disturbingly close to destroying the real me, my real relationship, my real future, my real sense of self. But here I was, still standing, still choosing truth over fear, still choosing love, the kind that fights beside you, not against you. Healing doesn't happen in a straight line. One night, I sat on the edge of my bed, opened the folder of old memories, and deleted it. Every picture, every message, every lingering digital fingerprint. Gone. It wasn't anger. It wasn't bitterness. It was simply release.
For the first time in years, I felt something I didn't expect. Peace. I turned off my phone, walked to the balcony, breathed in the cold night air, and closed my eyes. For the first time since this nightmare began, I whispered words that felt like reclaiming my life. This door is closed. And this time, I knew it would stay that way.